Hello everyone, JR10 Desert Gold. It's been quite some time since I've done a video, and it's a quiet evening. I've got spare time. I thought I'd try to put a quick one together. Recently, well actually about 3 years ago, I got into a new hobby as I was growing bored of the other ones I was in, or participating with. I stopped doing reloading videos or weapon videos because there were too many couch commandos out there that wanted to take issue with some of the things that they didn't really understand, and I got tired of trying to explain it. So I decided to give that a rest, and I haven't done any brewing videos lately because I'm trying to lose weight. Those things will get you addicted. About 3 years ago, I got into a new hobby, which is astrophotography, and it was a deep learning curve, very challenging, and that's what made it exciting for me. The downside is it's probably one of the most expensive hobbies I've gotten into, and that kind of puts a damper on things here and there. Anyway, this video I'm going to try and bring out the advantages of 3D printing and how they can be useful in a hobby such as astrophotography. Right here I've got a few examples of things that I've been working on in the past. The first one here being the Rodon 135. It's a wide field f2 prime lens scope, if you will. And unfortunately, about 4 months ago, I had this mounted on my deck in the backyard. I had it covered up for the night, and I was unaware of a storm that was coming around the corner. And eventually, the next day, I woke up and this whole rig was on the ground. It had broken off the mount from the back of the lens. Most of the brackets were broken or just completely gone. So I was left with a $400 lens that was not going to be useful for quite a while. So what I did is I went out and because I'm ignorant in that way, I went out and bought another Rodon 135, and that is what it's supposed to look like. I don't know if I can get that in focus for you. There's a lot of stuff on this small disc. This is the same lens, and this is a mounting system that is was available, I should say, from a company called Astronetics. It's a 3D printed mount, and I thought it was just the cat's meow. I mean, everything was there. You had a mount for your ASA or Pro on this side, which I don't have mounted right now. The saddle for your guide scope. Even nicely incorporated a mount for your electronic focuser down here. And it was just a great all-in-one package, a grab-and-go wide field, top of the line mobile scope. all of the 3D printing was professional in quality. I really liked it, and that kind of bugged me when I went to check on getting another mount for the broken one, and I come to find out that they had discontinued manufacturing the mount for this lens anymore. And this is the reason I'm kind of doing this video, because there's very little, if any, quality companies out there putting parts together for astrophotography. So what I did after I got the second lens, I spent some time. I redid the mount on the back of the lens, and it now functions. And I was left with no way to actually mount this lens for astrophotography or imaging. So this is actually one of the main reasons I got into 3D printing. I didn't develop. I did some research, and with the ideas that I had from the Astronetics mount, I went ahead and kind of put together my own system. I printed out front and rear lens mounts, and as the Astronetics, although it's not as classy as theirs, I incorporated a mount for the electronic focuser, and it functions perfectly. I did go ahead and print out a saddle because the original one was destroyed. So I went ahead and printed this so that I can mount a guide scope, and I printed a mount for the ASI Air Pro, which will sit on the back of the Vixen plate, or dovetail mounting plate. So as you can see, I was able to resurrect from the dead, if you will, a nice mounting system for this 135, and now I've got two, unfortunately, and I've got almost $1,000 in two lenses. So my next adventure was this 85 millimeter Ronin lens. And as I stated earlier, there are no commercially available mounting systems for these shorter wide-angle lenses. Now you can, I originally used a collar, a lens collar from ZWO, and it's for their cooled cameras. So my 533 was the camera I was using, and I printed a saddle that I mounted on this, and the camera would sit like right here holding the, or the collar would hold the camera right here, and I mounted this scope, or the lens. I just didn't feel good about that, because these, if you felt these lenses, they're not light. There's a lot of quality glass in them, and I always just had the feeling that the weight sticking out front was going to be an issue, and I started experimenting with printing front mount, and then that would sit right here. And it worked out pretty good. It just was getting too, complicated. And I got back to the old principle, the KISS principle, is keeping it simple, stupid. So I did a more concise or more easily printed and developed system where I did a lower electronic EAF focuser mount, and it is not supported like that other ring collar was. But given the fact that this isn't a super heavy mount, and it's holding up just fine. I did have to print up a lens mount or lens collar for the camera that I'm using on this one. This is the ASI 585, and it's a 52 millimeter, and again, there's not any lens collars out there either through companies or even online for 52 millimeters, so I had to kind of experiment a little bit, and I came up with a lens collar that I mounted on this riser to keep it level with after the clearance, or after taking it into consideration the clearance I needed up front for the focuser. So things were looking really good at this time, and I was happy with how it turned out. And I took it out one day and set it up for, actually I had it set up for 2 or 3 days, and it just so happened that it was during a period when we were getting ready for some really hot temperatures. And when I say hot temperatures, I live in the Southwest, and this time of the year, or the time that I'm referring to, was last month. It was July, and the average temperature for about 3 weeks in a row was 120 in the sun and about 109 at night. And when I mentioned learning curve, I had a very stark lesson in just that alone. I originally printed everything in a filament called PLA. These are different filaments you can get for printing based on what your needs are. And I was unaware at the time that the PLA was heat sensitive. And I went out one day to get the jump drive out of the computer, and as I jiggled the mount a little bit to get the jump drive out of it, the guide scope just fell right off the mount and hit the ground, breaking the USB port in the guide camera. And I couldn't figure out what was going on until I remounted it, and I kept trying to tighten the screws, thumb screws on the saddle to make the cameras or the guide scope secure, not realizing that I kept turning and turning, and I actually pulled out the brass insert that I had put in in there. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. There's one over here. And I eventually came to the realization that I was using the wrong plastic for the environment I live in. And I had to go through and reprint everything, which this is the new version, and that's why I made the changes. I didn't need this anymore. I wasn't going to waste filament on something that I was going to try to, make simpler. And I did some research and found out that I was using the wrong filament and switched from PLA to PETG, and everything's been Jake since then. They stay in place in the heat because the PETG is more heat tolerant than PLA. And I'll put a photo in this of the actual older one with the insert being pulled out. But then, and another less important side note to this is some of these cameras or lenses, especially this one, this one had what I call the tulip hood, and I hate those. Well, they're not good for astrophotography. They're more, this lens is more, this is a 24 millimeter, and it's more suited for terrestrial, as is the 85. They're more suited for terrestrial daytime photography for landscape and portraits and things like that. And that's why there aren't any companies putting out accessories for these kinds of lenses, because people are using larger scopes that like the 135, and even at the 135 there's only one company left making a mount for it, and they aren't nearly as good as Astronetics, and I didn't want to waste my money on it. And you can actually make your own hoods, and using different colored filament you can give your scopes a unique look if you like. Finally, on this one is, like I was saying earlier, this is the Ronin 24 millimeter, and again I have the same hurdles. I don't have any access. There's no company putting out anything for this one, so I just went to the drawing board and did some sketches on CAD program to do the simplest version of what I needed to do, because I'm not sure how often I'm going to use this. This is an older Canon T3i. It's been astro modified, but still it's an old camera, and the sensor in it isn't as accurate as the new astro cameras that I'm using on all my other. But I had it sitting in the closet for over a year, and it just drove me nuts that I wasn't finding a way to use it. So I went ahead and built just had a riser. And on this one, I did go ahead and stick with a front EAF mount doubling as a support for the front of the lens, and it's working out pretty good. I haven't got the focuser in on this one yet because I just finished it. And the other thing that I thought of was, it's a pain in the butt to use DSLRs because the batteries which are, I don't know if I've got one handy real quick. Of course, when I want to find one, I don't use it anymore. I haven't used it in over a year, any of the batteries that came with the camera, because they only last about an hour, and your camera goes dead in the middle of an imaging session that could be, 5 or 6 hours long, so you're constantly needing access to the battery compartment to put in a new battery. I just went ahead and solved that problem by buying a dummy battery, which plugs into a 12-volt battery, and I just got one of the Anchor, I think it's 3,000 or 5,000 milliamp batteries. Run that thing for days. The other reason that I hesitated to use this is it's kind of just, pain in the butt to use, because if you want to change the clip-in filter, you have to take the lens off. And take the lens off, you could either do one of two things. You can hold the lens and do the release button and switch the camera, and then everything just kind of goes kittywomper, because you have to support the camera and lens while turning it was just a pain in the butt. And I finally came up with a solution for that, and that is, when I want to use this camera now and change a filter from, say, city light suppression to the L enhance or something like that, all I have to do is clip it off. This is an Arca Swiss quick release system. The Arca Swiss plate is a standard mounted to the bottom of the camera, and then the quick release is mounted. I bolted it to the riser that I printed, and it's solid as a rock, and it's like $18 on Amazon. I couldn't pass that up. I mean, you've got a quick release, an easy way to get your camera off safely, change your filter, which is, for those of you that are unfamiliar with DSLRs, the clip-in filter goes right there. So it's just a way to make things easier. And as I said, you can customize things for different cameras. And the thing I like it most is the universe is so big that you can never see all of it, and I just enjoy finding new things. I enjoy the challenges this hobby provides, and you never stop learning. I'm gonna put a few images that I've taken with one of them was this 85. The other camera I was using at the time was it was the 135 before it got blown over. Anyway, I hope I didn't bore you, but I just think this is something that people who are in astrophotography, facing the frustrations with lenses that aren't supported by major companies, there's still hope that you can get what you need by just making it. And it saves money. this mount for the ASI Air Pro that I printed out is, if you go to buy just this one little piece of plastic, these are available because Arca Swiss plates are used on almost every camera mount or any computer mount in astrophotography. So just this simple little plate was $20, and I've got, I don't know, 8 or 10 of them. So it adds up. For a few cents and a few pennies in filament, you print a lens hood or a mount, a riser, whatever you need, a saddle. So again, I hope I didn't bore you. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below. I'll leave a link for the mount if anyone's interested. Anyway, thanks for joining me. This is JR10. Have fun, be safe.